All right, guys, let's hit it. Clemson football in dire straits right now. A period of transition, a fork in the road, so to say, for Clemson football. Replacing Brent Venables, who's been there 10 years and has been the best coordinator of defense in college football, and probably I would vote for as a college football Hall of Fame coach, ends up leaving Clemson. The athletic director, Dan Radikevich, ends up leaving to go to Miami. And now you also have the Tony Elliott leaves to go to Virginia. So Dabo Swinney, instead of getting like a Jimmy Lake or somebody who's a very proven defensive coordinator, he takes a chance on Wes Goodwin. Now, he's known Wes a very long time. He's convinced Wes to stay, supposedly, because Wes Goodwin was garnering interest from schools outside of Clemson. And he was doing this because Wes Goodwin is supposed to be a football guru, can call out every single blitz, can draw up plays like Goodwill Hunting can. And basically he is just a savant for football. So it's going to be exciting to see what type of schemes that he's going to be running. How is his relationship with players? How is his timing and calling plays? That's why they should probably add a veteran to that staff. You look at the offensive coordinator, Brandon Streeter. He's been there a long time as a QB coach, kind of has more of a track record, was at Liberty and Richmond, so he is even more experienced than the younger Goodwin. All right, so Dabo says to trust him with this process. Now, Clemson is ranked number 17 in the recruiting rankings, even behind schools like in their own state, South Carolina. Clemson only has 14 commits in this class, so maybe they can land some transfer portal guys. Maybe they'll look at competition for DJ Uiagalelei. Maybe they'll add some wide receivers to their team. All right, so maybe Emory Jones could be in the mix here. Maybe Chubba Purdy. You got to add some more quarterbacks. I know that they have a 5-star quarterback out of Texas. I'm going to review his tape. He's Finn. He's 6'4", good arm, Cade Klubenak. I'm going to review that kid's tape probably later this week, maybe even tonight. So for Clemson football, it is a little bit of a fork in the road moment. Is it all Brent Venables? Is it all, is it all the offensive coordinators? Because Dabo lamented on the fact yesterday that NIL is impacting college football athletes. And he said that a lot of kids that are 18 years old now, that education is not the primary factor now. It's money. And he thinks that again, going to class and things of that nature, it's going to be harder to pretty much affect kids or basically coach because of the money that's now coming into college sports. So I look at that concern, and obviously everybody's pro-player, they're pro-capitalism, they're pro-everybody making their money off of name, image, and likeness, especially an 18-year-old. I don't think people are going to side with an older coach like Dabo Swinney, and of course coaches get paid so much money to play. So it sounds like someone who's bitter and doesn't want to adapt to the landscape. But the landscape is, you'd be admitting to, you wouldn't be telling the truth if you said that the landscape isn't sudden changes and shocking changes. With Quinn Ewers making $5 to $8 million to go play at Texas, hasn't taken a snap yet. And I know that people could say there was always cheating in college football. We didn't exactly know about it in those circumstances. So it is good for the players that they are getting money. It does come with more responsibility, of course, but you would take that responsibility. So in terms of what Dabo is saying, it might be harder if a player is making half your salary, if a human being is making just as much money as you. When you're an employee at a company and you're making as much as your boss, that is going to give you some confidence to maybe challenge what the boss is saying, or it will be harder maybe for an employer to keep. I just think that is true in circumstances. So you look at Dabo Swinney in this circumstance here, And he does bring up valid points, but at the same time, I like that players now that are 18 that play such a violent game that cannot enter the NFL, I like that they have the ability now to market off of their abilities because, fans are wearing their jerseys, and again, they have a short shelf life. So I'm all for this. And for Dabo Swinney, it comes down to building the relationships. And if you're able to build the relationships, you could still attract the best of the best. You still were 9-3 last year at Clemson. So Dabo, I think, could still do this. But again, Dabo, if he looks at college football as free agency, if he doesn't have a good season, then he might bounce to the NFL. Then people will start to get on Dabo, who's been, very brash and outspoken, often against, what the media wants to just hear, cookie cutter answers. All right. So if Dabo ends up going to the National Football League, then people are going to say, was it all Brent Venables? Was it all because Dabo was cheating? He couldn't adapt to the NIL landscape? I guess those will all be questions. I still think he's a Hall of Fame coach. I still think he's outstanding at what he does. So now Clemson, again, a fork in the road moment. They're outside of the top 17. You lose a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. You lose the offensive coordinator. Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, as Dabo alluded to, is not there. DJ Uiagalelei pretty much put on the worst quarterback performance from Clemson standards in the past 8 years, and that's only because they've had the best of the best in Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. They went from one, outstanding college quarterback to another. So it is a fork in the road moment for Clemson football, all right? And is Dabo going to continue to roll on? You look at Nick Saban's able to replace Lane Kiffin with Steve Sarkisian. Lane Kiffin is able to then get Bill O'Brien, who then devises a really good scheme in the national title game. Lane Kiffin goes from Mel Tucker. Lane Kiffin then goes and gets Kirby Smart to be the defensive coordinator, goes from Jeremy Pruitt to Kirby Smart. All right, so there's always, Will Muschamp was I believe on Saban and Jimbo Fisher. So there's all these assistants, McElwain. I mean, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable to see the list of Saban assistants. Billy Napier, his eye for talent. He's always churning, always finding talent. So maybe Dabo is doing that with Wes Goodwin and these coordinators, which I believe are equally as important. You got to develop talent and develop players. They're still getting 4-star guys. They're still getting a lot of talent. And again, it's about development. And in the ACC, I think they could still rock the ACC. But with the expectations being getting to the playoffs and winning one of these playoff games, it certainly is a high bar for Dabo Swinney to try to match up to. So again, I think it's worth noting, worth monitoring this situation. A lot of people are doubting his abilities. I would say that at the trajectory of this recruiting class, and I would say that Clemson is in a little bit of trouble. I think that replacing Venables and hiring Streeter and Goodwin, I don't think it's going to work out that well long term. I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs in the next couple of years. Now, maybe you see a shift in February. And Dabo right now, I know it's tougher. I know it's tougher to compete with money that other schools are throwing out there. And when you're used to doing things a certain way and winning, it is tough for sudden change just like that. Transfer portal, NIL, battling car dealerships, battling Barstool, battling all these brands for recruits. I know it's tough. I know it is difficult. And I know people that don't like Dabo will say that the New Hope Church is always paying kids out or whatever, and that Dabo's been cheating and that he's the only guy doing this. Again, nobody's going to side with the elder that, again, wants to limit kids' freedom. Nobody in the media is going to do that. So I hear what Dabo is saying. I do understand his concerns about NIL and the changing landscape of college football. I do get that, and the sudden change of it is definitely a shock to I think, everybody's system in this process. I think it's also good for the kids, though. I'm excited for what NIL is going to bring, especially in a game where it's such a violent game, and in college it's even better because it's refereed less than the NFL. except for targeting. I like that these kids in this window where they're at their peak of athletic ability are going to get a chance to become college football legends and maybe even stay for fourth year and make some good NIL cash. I think it'll be fine for the sport. And last year, the sport was still rocking. The sport this year is getting better. Parity-wise, it's great. It is going to take some adjustment for some of the top-tier programs that have been at the top because you are going to see maybe an increase in parity with NIL. So, again, it's something to evaluate. I understand what Dabo's saying. It's harder to maybe get kids to class when they're making all this money. But, again, people are saying that it's just about the NFL. It's not about class. I think that going and getting an education is always a good thing if you're able to do that, and especially with the resources of tutoring and things of that nature, I believe that you can get a good education. I believe that it's possible to do both. So I kind of, again, just digesting what Dabo was saying and trying to analyze what's going on for Clemson. I think that right now, Dabo is frustrated with college football. There is a chance he goes to the Raiders, like I illustrated in another video. His connection with Davis, with Mark Davis, and with Derek Carr and Hunter Renfrow and Trayvon Mullen and all these guys in the NFL. He's seeing parallels between professional sports and collegiate sports with the money that's now being put into players and the transfer portal and that sort of thing. So it's worth monitoring here with Clemson finishing 17th in the 24/7 rankings in the 2022 early signing day recruiting class.